Her Excellency Ambassador of Lithuania, Ms. Diana Mickevičienė, and first she will be elaborating a lot the best practices of Lithuania in terms of climate and sustainability, all the initiatives that the countries have taken. And then probably we'll have a one-on-one interaction that will be followed by a couple of questions from the audience if the interest is there. Just to tell you a little fact about Lithuania, the country is currently having an AQI level of somewhere around 25, which is 10 times lower than what currently we are having in Delhi. So that's a kind of clean air and the best environment she has been living. But now currently she is also suffering the same kind of air that we have been suffering through. So ma'am, please, I welcome you here on the stage, and please share the best practices of Lithuania in climate and sustainability. Thank you. Yes.
What relevance is it, the country in Northern Europe, very small country with small population, would have to the challenges of scale that India has. But I believe, and I'm very sure, while spending a long time already in India, 2.5 years as ambassador, but I was here before, that many of solutions which are bred in small scale, environments are in fact applicable with a tweak. Normally every country, every environment has something of its own which needs to be adjusted. And countries generally learn from each other. We learned from India in some instances, and when I was a student in India many years ago, I was also very impressed by the very bold policies on plastic packets employed by some states, which were probably the first in the world to go for ban on plastics. I know it's not universal, and it's difficult to achieve, and we in a small country in Lithuania have been handling plastic packaging as well, and we have also had successful breakthroughs. But I have to admit, India, at least some states in India, were the first. So we just learn from each other. Anyway, we have never been a great polluter. We have been actually a very, very small polluter. Even in those times where we were not allowed to be on the map as independent country, and later on, as we embarked on very impressive economic transformation. Currently, we are part of European Union, and we contribute something like 0.55% of all of European Union's emissions as such, which is small. And European Union's emissions have also decreased to 10% probably only now. We also do not have a historical responsibility, so we have not accumulated sort of responsibilities that we would maybe feel we need to redress. However, Lithuania has taken very ambitious commitments, much more than we should, in fact. And while all of European Union countries are obliged legally to become carbon neutral economies by 2050, and to reduce its emissions by 55%, I guess now, in a matter of a few years, our commitments have been 70% of reduction, and even 80% being upgraded. So it's much more that, in fact, we should by law. And I think the reason is that we have undergone really very drastic economic changes and upheavals. First of all, when we broke away from Soviet Union, when we liberated ourselves, economy was in shambles, literally. I'm not lying. I remember those days because I was a first-year student where we had to really think about how to make our ends meet. Later on, we were very exposed to financial economic crisis in 2008. And even now, we are undergoing very dramatic impacts of Russia's war against Ukraine, which, in fact, gives us a lot of economic challenges. But what we noticed that if you modernize your economy, if you take that very ambitious way to transform, you can, in fact, make prosperity and sustainability go along together, which means developing country status is not a hurdle or excuse to not do certain things. And I think we are the case in study because we have come from poverty, developing status, to middle income, and recently, in the matter of 5-7 years, it's developed economy, high income economy. And I remember it's within my lifespan. It's actually more than less than my lifespan, but the last 30 years I remember very well. So it is very doable. And it is probably easier with a smaller population, but certainly the ways to do it through sustainability goes. Yes, I have listened to the previous debate. It's corporate responsibility, it's awareness creating and all that, but also it's a lot through the digitalization of economies and modernization of economies, so that there are no additional hurdles and burdens on the economy which cost you sustainability. So all these factors have to play hand in hand. And in anything that you take, if you talk about emissions, if you talk about your forest cover, if you talk about water, we are blessed. I mean, we don't have oil and gas. So some would say that it's a curse on a country, right? Because you still need to import, you need energy resources. In a way, it comes as a blessing in disguise because you invest in the brains and the people's education, and that changes everything. So, but we are blessed with a lot of water. It's a lot of clean water. Our tap water is drinkable, and now we're working on solutions to help others to treat water, to treat air pollution, of which we are, I mean, I'm not idealizing, we do have pollution as well, but I tell you, when it reaches 80, 90, 2.5 particles in Lithuania is like a national disaster announcement. Stay indoors and so on. So for me, Delhi does not even react much. When it's 300 above, then it starts already. So so we do have pollution, but it's on a much, much smaller scale. And then water, it's also the same. But then in our case, every drop of water is accountable. So no household will consume water without using water meter and paying for every drop. Business has adjusted, household has adjusted. They know there is no other way. You pay for the water that you consume. And incidentally, one of the biggest interesting business cases in Lithuania is our smart water meters, which some companies have started installing in Indian new colonies, new housing colonies, where the concept has to be that every drop of water is, you have to account for it. There is a value to that. It's the most valuable resource, in fact, in this world today. Waste sorting, waste segregation is another thing. The household knows that there's no other way. You have to. And when I came to Delhi, I immediately bought these 4 big bus, garbage boxes, and I asked my, lady who comes to help me clean the house, to sort it. She looked at me, what? And of course, I made her sort, and she finally put it back in one bag because there is the different system works, but that means there is no infrastructure in place. So you have to, do those very drastic changes where everybody in the line who are in that, system would be equally involved, and don't take it as a punishment or some sort, because garbage is a value now. I mean, we are still working on waste reprocessing and recycling, but our Nordic neighbors like Sweden, Norway, they have run out of garbage. It's a valuable. They buy it, they import, because their energy, functions on burning or recycling garbage. Therefore, if you have free garbage, you can send it to them. They will reprocess it. It can become a business case of some sorts. I think our biggest achievement, in terms of the practical things, of which I probably want to tell, you judge whether it's applicable to India, but I believe it can be applicable in any surrounding, is the deposit system for beverage bottles. It created miracle which we saw in 5-6 years. It was adopted in Lithuania by the government, so it's a centrally sort of installed system. It doesn't come from the bottom because it has to be certified by the government agencies. It has to have stickers and so on. But all the beverage stickers, beverage bottles that you buy have a sticker, and a customer is charged 10 euro cents extra for every bottle that you buy. But if he gives that bottle back to a certain assembly point, he gets his 10 cents back. He uses it on his further purchases. And in 1 year alone, when we installed it in 2016, in 2017, recycling of plastic bottles and glass bottles, for that matter, shot up from 30%, which we used to have in 2016, to 70%. Currently, we recover and recycle 92, maybe even more now, 94, 95% of all beverages bottles. And it's hugely important because most of the pollution, once you deal with the plastic packets, which is, I think in India is already dealt with, most of the pollution comes, and that's been also statistics on global scale, and for pollution in seas, the plastic comes from bottles. And while we all drink, all the beverages, what happens to the bottle, very few would know. So now we've had 9 years of that. We have calculated that we have reprocessed the plastic bottle piles, which are equal to 5 Eiffel Towers. It would amount to 170 or something, million tons of plastic waste. That's in a tiny, small country of Lithuania. You multiply it by at least 50% to get the scale of India. Because, you go to a village, I've just back from Bhuj area in Gujarat. That's tiny, very simple, small villages, but Coke, all the beverages, all the sodas are available there. So people buy, drink, and possibly throw away the bottles. So this is the system which our government has also been advising to many other governments. We are ready to send consultants to, in fact, help anyone who wants to implement, but it needs to be implemented either on national or at least state level. In India, states are very independent in doing it because in that particular territory, everybody has to be part of it. There is no partial participation in that scheme. And this is something that I have seen which created miracles. So while the people in the panel were saying there are no short-term solutions, that you have to be patient and all that, but I have to say that some targeted measures can create a miracle in a matter of a year even. And that is a system which binds every stakeholder together. So there are, of course, companies, there are also those sellers, retailers who sell, who have to be, and they have no choice. By law, they were left with no choice but to participate and invest in the recycling procedure. There are also people. And some consumers might be rich and spoiled and say, we don't care, but there will always be somebody a little more poor who would collect the bottle and will submit and get his 10 euro cents back to use on his purchases. Therefore, this combines both the imposed sort of, legal obligation from the top as well as participation from the back. I think the other big way, apart from, I won't probably speak about energy diversification and green energy, on which we also have good stories, but I think India is also doing tremendously, impressively well on diversifying green hydrogen, solar. I have definitely seen some of these infrastructures. But I also want to speak about the digital, solutions and devices which help to do this. And again, I've just asked some of Lithuanian companies who are present in India, can they give me examples of their products or their technologies or their devices helping India to be more clean, more green, more sustainable? And yes, many of them came back with, suggestions and their ideas, and also the applied models already. And our probably biggest company, which is in India, is called Teltonika, which provides, it assembles and sells and installs trackers and sensors for the fleet of cars of whatever sort. So they, For example, there is a system in the greater Chennai area or in Bangalore area where the garbage disposal is regulated by, when trackers are installed on each and every vehicle to make sure, and it's centrally supervised, that the vehicle goes only to the place where the garbage container is already full, so that it takes the shortest route that doesn't waste anything on the way, and it doesn't lose its way and doesn't do any extra kilometers, and that's how it works. Even I know that some environment management companies use those trackers and sensors. I think one of them, Sure, I was told, also has Lithuanian trackers installed in its environment monitors. And these solutions can be many, multiplied in many options. So I won't be going on that, but what I want to say that we are a good example that even without a historical burden of responsibility for having created pollution, the country can take a commitment to be very, very pioneering and very responsible, and that it is doable while you are a developing country. Once you involve people's participation, and once you have the right balance between the legal obligation and leaving no choice to those who consume, the result could be outstanding. I actually want to mention one particular initiative which was mentioned. Prime Minister's Life, Prime Minister Modi's Life initiative is something that is very close to my heart. And while we all know that the biggest consumption is in the West, but Indian middle and upper classes are consumers of enormous proportions. So if lower middle class follows, there is a problem, because this overconsumption has reached India. And if it was my choice, I would ask the organizers to increase AC here by at least 2 degrees, because it's always a problem. Half of the audience freezes and we all burn energy to have unnecessary cold premises. But that's what it's all about. We all have to be part of that. We all have to say that, no, we don't need this cold. No, we don't need this much. We are fine with a little less. It will be good for everyone because we will save. So I think the balance is needed. But as far as my country is concerned, I'm really happy to be chosen by Mr. Abhishek as an example. Well, definitely not claiming to say that we are perfect, but we have done our share. We will continue to do our share despite the challenges of war and aggression that is happening next to us. And in a democracy like us, like you, people have a lot of say in that. So it has to be government-led, but it cannot go without population taking part and even pressurizing the government. I was told, of course, that when we sort of imposed this deposit refund system of beverage bottles, that the population will resist. In fact, in 1 year, the survey told us that over 90% of people supported the idea and enthusiastically took part in it. And now the latest survey says that 80% of people expect the government to do more. So it is how it works. It has to be from both sides. And of course, the corporate responsibility is in between, where there is a bit of a, impulse from above, but the business case is always there if you rightly apply it. So thank you very much for giving me the floor, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful address. So please join us for this small interactive session. We have our audience. So thank you for this wonderful address, ma'am. We got to know about Lithuania, its initiative, its little bit of history, about 3 decades old. And also you confess that a lot of historical development factors you don't have to factor in when we talk about how the weather and the climatic condition are better there. Also, you are bestowed with good climatic conditions and nice northern wind, which unfortunately we don't have in Delhi. And that is one reason why we all around the year we have a high PM 2.5 level, and we suffer from that. But before we start, there has to be a little context about the size of the smaller countries, and not only Lithuania, but other neighboring countries along Lithuania, they also have this sense of urgency towards climate change. And a lot of time we hear that there are government policies and push from the government side also, and there is a awareness among the citizens also as to there should be steps, there should be industrialization, there should be development, but not at the cost of something that harms our health, that damages climate for a long time. So where do you see those narratives or those perspectives from your society, from the society around your country, and the same situation in India? Do you find any gap? Do you find any a level of awareness or the policy planning? There is something amiss, which is also a reason why the weather condition in India is not, the climatic condition is not as good.
Well, I remember last November when I had to, I've been approached by TV and journalists from Lithuania to comment on that extremely unfortunate situation in Delhi with air quality when the PM levels reached over 1,000 and even more. I really studied, the subject to understand why is it so, and I don't think it's just a climatic condition which is to be blamed. Definitely climatic situation of, Indo-Gangetic plain is there. The two harvests that the farmers have to go between the, rice and wheat. They hardly have a week or so to do. So we go to do the, to burn. But it's not that, it's anything else. Of course, you deal with a city like Delhi, which is 30 million. So my whole country is 3 million. So it's not for me to teach you how to deal with it. But then look at what happens. Like I tell you as a consumer, I used to be buying things from Amazon in Europe. And there you have an option. You click and you ask that all your purchases are packed into one box and said at one go. Here I don't even get that option. I order like 10 small things and they all arrive to me, at different times. They bother me. I have to always count which one arrived, which did not. I don't like it at all. But what a disastrous thing is it for Delhi, because you have, people, zipping around with each small box. Everything is packed separately and the tiny object that you get is normally packed in this big box. That all counts. So that all contributes. It's emissions from the scooter. It's the packaging industry, which flourishes for no reason at all. Because if I order shampoo and, I don't know what, little cream or whatever, they can easily be packed into one box in one terminal, and sent to me. That would really spare me a lot of time. But there is no such option. So in each and every situation, you have to say again, that of course Kabadiwala comes and takes the paper. But then, how many households would not even have a person, in charge of disposing of garbage, because he comes at, 8 o'clock? Many of, house helps start from 9. So it's much easier for them to throw the cardboard and, liquid garbage and everything in one and just drop it by. Little things which make a lot of difference. So while, of course, climatic situation is an important thing, but managing a huge city, things can be just run not because it's very comfortable to a consumer. I don't find it comfortable, but take 10 packages coming over, 5 days at different timings. But many probably are, because Amazon caters for the consumers, right? But if the citizens say, no, we don't need that. We don't need that pollution. And, I'm also quite surprised that some of the startups only work on the presumption that the good is in like very speedy delivery, not calculating all other costs. The customer can wait for certain things. He will not die without getting a shampoo on that same day in the afternoon, So I think there are lots of answers. So we are small, we're solving other problems maybe, but ultimately problems are similar. It's how you apply the balance between your needs and comforts and the obligations to climate and to nature.
So those little habits that every one of us can actually pick and start delivering combinedly at a larger scale for the betterment of all of us. Also, we have heard that Lithuania and other countries around, they have a lot of urban infrastructure mobility, which largely comes from renewable energy sources. And how does that happen? How did this happen? Because the entire renewable energy transportation is not very old and traditional. It's a story of last 2 decades probably. How did you shift from the traditional energy resources to this renewable energy, and how much of benefit or return on investment do you actually see here?
We have not yet shifted to, I mean, very few probably in the world would say loudly that
Not
they have.
entirely, yeah.
I think our share in terms of consumption of energy is 30+%. Now, mind you, you say very favorable climatic conditions. We might have -30 in winter. This is not something you may like. But I mean, the person also have no choice but to have heating and pay a lot for it. It's just not a matter of choice. You will die if you don't have a heating, right? So you are blessed with a situation where, I mean, even heat is survivable. I mean, people used to survive in this country before ACs and coolers came up, but cold is not. That's where you don't compromise because you will freeze to death, right? But renewables, yes, we have quite an ambition to shift to, in terms of consumption, not of manufacturing, because we are importing a lot of energy, and the imported energy is mostly gas, liquefied gas for us. Because what was that, about 15 years ago, we decided to build our own liquefied natural gas terminal because Russia was blackmailing us horribly with prices because they only had done single pipe. We had no alternative. So now we can have gas from everywhere, but it's gas, right? So ultimately the choice is to have renewables, and we have now at the 30+%. We aim at 55 in a matter of a few years, in fact, by 2040, and well on track. Solar parks are being built, wind parks are being built, hydro is also employed, so we are good generally. But what if you say, how does it benefit? I mean, green hydrogen is one thing, and I have to say India here is blessed with a huge market, which makes it much cheaper and affordable. But in Europe, because the consumer's market is less, green hydrogen is still an expensive proposition. So it is being implemented and so on, and it will get cheaper, but the storage is still not solved. So it's coming, definitely. But if you talk about a common person, one miracle which has already happened in Lithuania is that, it's on the way, it's not yet complete, but we expected in the matter of a few years, some 20 or maybe 30% of energy consumers will become the so-called prosumers, which means that they will be producing their own energy on micro level, and that's mostly solar that we have. Now I have all my friends, covering their rooftops of countryside houses and solar panels. You connect them to the grid and you become, instead of consumer, you become prosumer. It pays you back. It might be an expensive proposition initially, so if you have a spare euro, you invest into it, but later on you have, for 50 years, the solar panels can be long-term. We do have solar industry, by the way. We are one of the few countries in which it was not killed by the cheap Chinese solar panels, but it's more expensive, but it's longer shelf. So you invest, and I think in your life, it will be probably enough to have it to you. So that's a very concrete example that solar becomes everyday usage, and everybody's house will have a roof with a solar panel.
Sure. So I'll also request the audience, if they have any question, they can ask the question. Okay. So if somebody can take this mic to him, and
Ma'am, my question is regarding the omnibus proposal, which was recently cleared by the European Union, and it has significantly reduced the ESG compliances for companies, and more than 80% companies have been left out. So how does this affect the sustainability change towards sustainability?
Well, I think Europe has a very peculiar situation in which you, again, prioritize what you need to do first. And I think our biggest priority now is to get peace back on the continent and to have a sustainable peace, which will probably cost us a little more. The green course is is on. Nobody has cancelled it, but again, many companies are complaining, about extremely high requirements. And even our partners like India are complaining about our requirements. You may have heard, your Minister of Commerce has been very vocal about this, carbon border tax. But imagine if this tax is applicable to EU businesses, but is not applicable to exporters to importers who come from other countries. Our businesses would not understand that. So at some point, maybe if you've had a very ambition, and it was probably the most ambitious program in the world, you have to, make compromises. But from what I hear is that everything is on track. We have to be realistic, and with so many challenges which are befalling us, you have to grade them to some extent. We were always joking, that COVID ended when Russia started the war, because suddenly the war becomes a much bigger, because you just disappear from the map. What COVID is it? And COVID becomes something of a secondary. So you grade the challenges, and challenges on Europe are enormous. I think unprecedented for now.
So I think right. So, Her Excellency, my question is, since you are talking about good climatic conditions, when which is sometimes extremely extreme for people to bear, also, but then what is just wanted to know your insights into what other companies in your country doing, which can be a learning lesson for Indian companies. Like you have told already, companies in solar are doing well, and they are competitive in the market also, right? They are making good products. So what are your insights? What practices Indian companies should learn from those company practices that is followed in your country?
Thank you for the question. In fact, I was very much anticipating it, and I was going through this so-called green catalog that we have of Lithuanian companies in green and sustainable businesses. And it's not just about learning. I think it's business propositions which could be something very much relevant to India. So you may start, this would probably be very relevant to the packaging industries and those exporters who are aiming at European Union market, because even packaging material is something that is screened and has to comply with certain requirements. It's about their degradability, recyclability. There are levels which need to be ascertained. And recently I received a call from a Lithuanian company which seems to be doing a lot of business around Europe and outside Europe, which in fact inspect the recyclability and testify and certify recyclability and degradability of packaging materials, and help companies packaging anything for export into European Union comply with the requirements, so that there are no unexpected situations. So the company is called EcoGran and has been doing a lot of other consulting services for waste management, but one applicable area for Indian exporters and packagers, if we want to comply with those rather high norms and get their products into, is basically to work together so that the packaging industry also adopts certain levels. Now that's one. We can talk also a lot about improvement of soil. That's in India, which has so many mouths to feed. And while of course there is also land mass to it, but not all of the land is very cultivable. And I'm just back from Bhuj in Kutch, where I have only seen mostly desert, right? So yes, with the latest biotechnology solutions, you have those biofertilizers, biostimulants, which affect the plant and the soil and make it grow wonders, consuming much less and remaining absolutely, ecological, not polluting it. We have smart fertilizers. We used to be very much a fertilizer export country, but now the industries are moving into biofertilizers, nano-fertilizers, and eco-fertilizers to make, to help, markets grow products sustainable, which will be also helpful. So I can continue on, but anyone interested, I would have a list of companies to share with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Also, before we wind up, would like to have your opinion. You talked about the small steps or the small gestures that we can do about this paper straw or the wooden straw or the metal straw. We saw that it was an issue in the US election, and the first thing that probably President Trump started with having to start use with the plastic straw and removing everything else that was pro-environment. He also advocated going back to the mining coal and thermo power generation. Also in this era of global trade war and USA, one of the major polluters and consumer markets, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. What kind of influence or the repercussions do you see for smaller countries like you and for in a larger way for the global initiative that were in a way moving in a very smart way to contain the climatic problem or the 1.5 degree rise of the temperature that we always talk about?
Well, we may be small, but we are part of a big market. We are part of European Union and the single trading market, single market of EU, which makes us 450 million strong. And in fact, India and European Union single market are the only two biggest, like-minded trading partners. So the outcome that you saw was the whole European Commission coming, landing in Delhi and having unprecedented G2G meeting with the Indian government, which was in fact a response to a call at the time saying that we are the ones which are like-minded. We see things very similar in the current context, very, very like-minded, more than before, right? So we have obligation, but also impulse to really put aside the little differences that we may have on certain things. So now, of course, the FTA between European Union and India is back on the table, and I know that it's being vigorously negotiated with a lot of success. There is this ambition to finish even this year. We'll see how about it. Again, I think environmental standards will remain important to European side, I'm sure, to Indian as well. So how to balance it with business and the needs of, to serve the populations on both sides. We will have to work out. But the answer is that neither we are small, nor we are alone, and we have a very like-minded partner.
So my question was regarding US major policy shift in US government.
Well, on that, let me not comment. I am a diplomat. And I don't really know. I have not even heard, in fact, about replacing straws. So I'm hearing it for the first time.
Can we have another question?
Your Excellency, I don't have a question, but just a slight clarification regarding Amazon. I have seen in Amazon that it offers you, at checkout, an option to get all the packages together on a Sunday. I guess it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the sellers are all across India. Probably your shampoo could be coming from Kolkata, and then another package could be coming from Chennai. Probably that's why it doesn't work. But I've seen that option here.
But is it good that my shampoo comes from Calcutta, which is available next day here in Delhi? I mean, that's my question.
But yeah, you have sellers across India. They are all, it's a marketplace here.
I know that I normally use German Amazon. There is a tick that you have to tick the box. But I couldn't find that same thing, even though Amazon web pages are totally identical. But this one little thing is missing here. So maybe there is a trick. I have to search more. I would definitely love to do it.
I guess it comes only when the sellers are from the same city.
It was really a pleasure talking to you, Her Excellency, and knowing about the Lithuanian best practices, how the country has resiliently and robustly improved in the last 3.5 decades, and it continues to be part of EU and larger economic bloc there. We have a lot to do on climate and other aspects. Also, in fact, climate and these things were one of the roadblocks that used to be in terms of various negotiations between EU and India. So when you said that we are very much on the same page, it looks very formidably the relationship is going to improve. Thank you for talking to us. And before we leave you, there is a small token of gesture that our editor will announce.
From M3M, and
thank you very much,
Yes, we'd
Abhishek,
like
for
to show-
invitation
yes.
and ability to share my experience.
please come. Yes. We have Neha from M3M Foundation. She's felicitating.